guys, welcome back to this JavaScript series. We bring to you another tutorials from our JavaScript series. So in today's section, we are trying to write a program to remove duplicates from an array, right? So previously, we've looked at finding the sum and other tutorials that we've been doing, right? So we're just trying to use this JavaScript algorithm series to make it easy for you to learn JavaScript, right? So in today's lesson, we are just trying to remove duplicates from an array, right? But before we do that, we have an input that we are going to give it to our function, and we want our function to retain a new array with no duplicates. So we have mango, apple, orange, mango, berries, and grapes, right? So we want to, when we give this as an input to our function, we want our output to be apple, mango, orange, berries, and grapes, of which in the new array that our function will return, there will be no duplicates. So as the usual, we always try to write our program using functions, right? So we'll use functions, we'll use variables, and we'll also use two most important methods on an array. So we'll use the index of and the push method. And we are saying that using the index of method, it returns a -1 if the element is not in the array. Else, if the element is in the array, it will return the index of the element, right? So let's have an example here, a simple example. We have an array that contains a list of, let's see, 2 names. We have George, and we have, say, Williams. So I even can spell Williams. So Williams, right? And we have what we call, let's say, so the name is going to be var. Then we have name, and we'll set our name, right, to Williams. And we'll try to know the position, right? So let's declare another variable called position, and in that position, we'll assign it to the array, right, dot the index of, then we pass in the name to it, right? So what we did is that if we try to do a simple if, right, just a condition to check for something. So if our position is greater than or equal to 0, we want to use a fancy way to format our string by using backticks. And we'll say that, let's say, found the name, right, at let's say this position. So we call this, and we pass in our position variable inside, and we'll see that clearly. We'll see found William at, so let's say at the index. So, not position. So found William at this index, which is 1. So clearly we see that in the array, we had William at the position of 1, that is the index of 1. So this is not the aim of this tutorial. It was just an example to show you how to use the index function. Once again, let's look at what we call the push method, right? So the push method will append a new element to the end of the array. So let's quickly take an example of that. So we'll say that var, and let's use elements is equal to an array of 1, 2, and 3. So when we try to call the elements, right, and we push what we call, let's say, 4, and So let's try and console.log to see what happens. So nope. Rather, let's do this rather. So this is an in place, right? So let's rather console.log the elements to see the new elements that we have. So when we call the elements, yep, elements, we'll see that we have pushed 4 into the end of the array. So initially we had, right, we have 1, 2, 3 in the array. And when we use the push method, we append a new array or a new element to the end of the array. So this also is not the objective of our tutorial this time around. So let's try to comment it. And so now that we know how this two method works, we'll try and write our function. So we'll start by writing our function, and we'll call our function remove. So remove duplicates, right? That's the function name, remove duplicates, which takes in an array. And since we want our program to return a new array without any duplicates, since we know that, so let's try to create an empty array ahead of time so that we can append the new element inside. So let's call it unique is equal to, then what we'll try to do is that let's write a for loop, right? So let's comment, let's write a for loop over here. So for var, so the initial, as we always do, var, then we have I, then less than the array dot length, right? Then we increase it plus plus, then we open it. So after we update it, we want to write a condition, right? So write a condition, write a condition, right? Condition to check for the duplicates, right, in the array. Yep. So what we do is that if, right, if the unique, but mind you that I said the index of method returns -1 if the element is not in the array. So try to wrap your head around what I'm trying to do here. So unique dot index of passing the array of this, and I'll try to compare it to -1. So all that I'm trying to say that we know that this array is empty, so if this unique dot index, so we are trying to find the index of the first array, the index of the first item in this empty array, which we know that it doesn't exist. So if it doesn't exist, we said the index of will return -1, right? So we are trying to check it with a -1 to see. So if it checks and it sees that no, what's the current index in the array, right? The current index that we are trying to find, the current elements that we are trying to find its index, if it is not in the array, meaning that it will return -1. So the whole of this place becomes -1, and -1 is equal to -1, which will yield a true. So if it is true, then only do we want our unique, right? array, we want to push the array of that index into our array, just as simple as that. So after we have pushed it into the array, we'll try and return the new array, right? So what is the new array? You can guess. Your new array will be the unique, right? So then once we've run this, let's try and go over our code, right? We said we'll create a function name called remove duplicates, right? And our remove duplicates will take an array. Since we know that our program should return an output of a new array, we are trying to create an empty array ahead of time so that when our function finds out that there is no element, right, in such an array, we try to push that element at that specific index into our array, thereby removing duplicates from the array that will pass inside the function. So let's try and give our function some inputs to see what happens. So I'm going to declare an array. So let me copy the input that I did here. So let me copy it, and let's say inputs is equal to this array, right? So if we are giving this input to the array, we're trying to console.log the remove duplicates, right? And we're passing the inputs, right? So see that it returns exactly as we said it will return. So if I push this here, we see that it returns apple, mango, orange, berries, and grapes, exactly as we did. So let's also try and give it another function to see if truly it will work. So let's try to give it another input. So let's call our input names, right? And you can use any name of your choice. So first of all, we're going to add our favorite name, Williams, and we'll add another one called Williams, and we add another one called George, and another one called another George, right? And we add another one called Dixon, and I have one Chinese friend of mine, so let's add his name. Now when we try, let's try and copy this and paste it here and give it the names. Oh, sorry, names. We'll see that we have Williams, George, Dixon, and Joe Ho, right? So this is the end of our tutorials. We hope that you go through the functions, try to understand what the index of method is doing and what the push method is doing. So let's run through our function once again. So we said our function takes in an array, and since we know that our function will return a new array, we are trying to create an empty array ahead of time, and we are trying to create a for loop. We have our initial, we have our condition, and we have our updates, right? Now in our block inside the for loop, we are trying to call the index of method on this empty array, meaning that if we try to check, so if this array is 0, meaning that it is going to append what we call, so let's say, let's copy this and try to particularize it. So this William, for the first loop, it's not in this array, right? So it is going to return -1, right? So -1 equal -1, which is true. So this whole expression becomes true. So we can push that index, which is William, right? Which is this William, into our new array, right? Thereby checking if it will repeat several times. Now, what we can also use to check for another occurrence inside this input is what we call the last, I think it is the last index of, right? So if I get it correct, I think it is the I think last index of, exactly. So the last index of will also check for another occurrence of William inside the array, but that is not what we are interested. What we are interested is the index of. So when it checks that William is not in the empty array, which means this whole expression, right, becomes -1, and -1 equal -1, so that we can push. Now here become William, and we push William into the new array, right? So try to understand this code, and we'll hope to see you in our next tutorial. Thank you.